Hello, the story that I want to tell you today takes place in the U.S. state of Connecticut. The state has a mild climate and long coastline around the Gulf, which has helped the state have a long tradition of maritime development. The state is now known for the wealth of the United States. In addition to that, there are also many prestigious universities such as Yale University, bringing together excellent students from all over the world. In 1986, a special case happened here that made it difficult for investigators. The perpetrators acted and handled the victim in an extremely sophisticated way, making it impossible for the local police to solve the case in time. Long time. So what are the specifics of the case really? Next we will push back the time to December 1st, 1986. December 1st, 1986 was a first Monday. The state also experienced a big blizzard, although the weather was bad but people weren't affected too much. After the blizzard stopped, people started going out shopping to prepare for the upcoming Christmas. That day, the Newtown police received a call from a private detective named Keith Mayo, who told him that his hirer, Helly Locke Nielsen, had disappeared a few days ago. He believed her husband Richard is involved in her disappearance. So he called the police to ask them to help him investigate the case, and at the same time he also provided some more information to the police. His client Helly Locke is a Pan Am flight attendant. She hired him a few months ago to investigate her husband's affair. They later learned that Richard was dating an Intern Airlines flight attendant, after learning that Helly began collecting evidence to prepare for a divorce. But recently she disappeared without being contacted. After the investigation, the police had not seen her since November 19, about 10 days before the investigation, and her car was found in the parking lot of the employees where she worked. At first, the police did not pay too much attention to the incident and thought that this was just an argument between the husband and the wife decided to leave to relieve the mood. They assumed she would return home safely. Because the person the private detective is reporting is Richard, he's an Intern Airlines pilot, and he's also a part-time volunteer cop in town, with no bad habits, so after receiving the call, they waited until the next day to send the scene to investigate. According to Richard's testimony, and Helly had 3 children together. Their family lived very happily, and on the evening of November 18, before leaving the house, his wife did not have anything unusual. Poe also planned to take the children to his sister's house to play, but the next morning he woke up and his wife was nowhere to be found. He guessed that she received an unscheduled notice that she needed to fly somewhere because his wife is a flight attendant who regularly follows flights everywhere. Sometimes she doesn't come home for a dozen days. Normal thing. Therefore, when he did not see his wife, he did not find it strange. At that time the couple had a bit of a conflict. Both suspect each other is having an affair. They are in a time of controversy, so the two do not communicate with each other. Richard's explanation sounded reasonable. However, the police still felt that something was wrong. In the following days they continued to pay attention to the case, whereby new clues kept appearing. For the matter to become even more confusing, because the incident happened in Connecticut, where Dr. Lee Suong Ngoc is residing. He is a Chinese American who is known as the contemporary Sherlock Holmes. He participated in the prize. Solved more than 8,000 thrilling and mysterious cases during his lifetime. At that time the police wanted to solve the case as soon as possible, so they invited him to participate in the investigation. After receiving the invitation, Dr. Lee immediately started the investigation. He first began to investigate with Helly's surrounding relationships. It didn't take long for him to find some clues. The 19-year-old babysitter at her family named Mary Thomas, who quickly resigned from work immediately after hearing that she was missing. Quickly find the babysitter and discover that she had nothing to do with the disappearance. However, During the interview process he gathered some important information. According to the babysitter, the night before Helly went missing, she was woken up by a strange sound in the house. At the time she didn't care too much and thought it might just be the blizzard outside knocking something down. The next morning, the owner of the house, Richard, announced that there was a power outage last night due to some problems that caused the house to lose power. In the middle of such cold weather without electricity to keep warm, it's not good at all, so he decided to take the whole family to a temporary stay at his sister's house at UW, about 35 kilometers from the town the family lived in. The babysitter didn't see Helly at that time, so instinctively asked, "Didn't everyone go together?" Richard replied that she had gone before. After arriving, Richard left everyone and drove away right away. Instantly. At 19 o'clock in the evening, he took them home. During that time the babysitter never saw Helly anywhere. The next day when Mary was cleaning, she saw a sizable black stain on the bedroom carpet. When she asked Richard, she was told it was kerosene, and he immediately cut off the dirty carpet and left. Mary felt something was wrong, felt scared, so she quit her job and returned home. Dr. Lee began to investigate more about her colleagues and friends and discovered that Richard had come up with many different versions of his wife's absence. For example, "My wife had gone to Germany and will be back. After a while, my wife went back to her hometown to take care of her sick mother." After being asked too many questions, he replied that "I don't know where she was going." According to some of Richard's friends, he often imposed and showed dominion over the family. He has a bad temper, likes to collect weapons, and has a number of mistresses outside, and Helly has also been beaten by him. Some friends told the police that before she went missing, "She told me that if something happened to me, it was definitely not an accident. I want the divorce as soon as possible." From the information obtained, Dr. Lee is sure that Richard is hiding something. The police immediately listed Richard as a top suspect. They suspect that he and his wife had a conflict because of the divorce that caused him to shoot his wife in anger. After a closer investigation, the unusual signs were gradually revealed. After hearing about the disappearance, the private detective felt that something was wrong, started to investigate. When he heard the babysitter tell us for the carpet, he believed there was definitely an important sign on it, and after learning about the area where Richard's family trash was often transported, he hired 9 more people to spend several days digging in the pile and found a rug exactly like the one at Helly's house. There was still a big stain on the carpet. After learning that, Dr. Lee accepted the responsibility of investigating the disappearance. He immediately sent the carpet sample to the police for investigation. However, when the carpet sample reached their hands, it was seriously contaminated due to deep digging in the yard. After checking, they were unable to determine if the stain on the carpet was blood or not. When the investigator checking Richard's bank records and phone records, they discovered a number of suspicious points. Credit card bills show that on November 13, before Helly went missing, Richard spent $375 at the bank, a store in the city of London, to buy a large freezer. Why did he buy a large freezer, and what does he intend to do in winter? Shop owners to request registration information for them to ship to their home, but was refused. 4 days later he returned to the store and personally shipped the large freezer to his home. Later that day, Richard's bank card charged an additional $900 fee to rent one. Machinery from Richard's phone contact records, police discovered he contacted a company to rent a wood crusher. He said there were some trees downed by a blizzard in front of his house, so you need to hire a wood crusher to process them. November 18, 1986, Richard went to the above company and rented the largest, most powerful wood crusher, which can grind branches and trunks up to 30 centimeters in diameter. Until November 19, 1986 record, the note on Richard's bank card showed that he had purchased a new set of bedding. By that time, It was clear that Richard's actions were very unreasonable, very suspicious. However, due to the lack of concrete evidence, in addition, the police did not find it, so they could not do anything more until December 26, nearly a month after receiving the news that the final search warrant had been issued. Approval perfectly matches the rug shape in the master bedroom in Richard's house. Secondly, they discovered some very rare samples. Dr. Lee saw 5 places of hard-to-see blood in the corner of the bed, in the bedroom. After many tests, it showed that the blood stains on the blood group belonged to the blood type. O matches Helly's blood type, and the blood stains above are not menstrual. Tuesday, in their bathroom hangs a lot of large towels. The police discovered many large towels in Richard's bathroom. Through testing the towels, they all showed negative results. Blood response. From the above information, can it be determined that Helly was murdered, but her body is currently at the head? Under U.S. law, it is not possible to convict a suspect of murder without evidence, so Dr. Lee decided to do a lie test on Richard. However, he successfully passed up to 3 tests. So is Richard the real killer or not? Dr. Lee, still convinced his analysis could not be wrong, he cast doubt on the results of the lie, a scientific device used to record physiological changes such as respiration, heart rate, blood pressure, and skin moisture. When the average person is asked to determine whether the person is lying or not. In other words, with professional training, one can still stay calm to pass a lie test. After further investigation, he discovered that before becoming a pilot, Richard had served in the Air Force. Marines have even worked for the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, performing many secret missions. Which means that Richard used to be like the jambon in the movie, trained professionally, kept a state secret, could lie like the real thing. So Richard's lie tests were simply commonplace. Right when the police fell into a deadlock after the test, a seemingly unrelated news suddenly appeared to help the investigation team change the situation after the case was widely reported by the international press. As the police force was facing great pressure from public opinion in that situation, Dr. Lee's investigation team discovered a number of events that are unrelated, but a new suggestion for the direction of investigation. A few months ago, there was an incident that made the locals feel uncomfortable. There was a man who was constantly annoyed because the dog of the house next door was too noisy, which made him angry. He caught the dog and threw it directly into the wood crusher, causing the dog to split into many pieces. The incident was quickly reported by a few newspapers, and gradually a lot of people knew about the story. At that time, the investigative team recalled that Richard had also rented a large wood crusher. After investigation and survey, they found a witness named Jose. He is an employee who specializes in shoveling snow on the highway. At that time, due to continuous snow for many days, the amount of snow increased. To ensure smooth traffic, he was assigned to shovel snow on the highway on the night shift. At around 3 a.m. on November 19, he saw a passing driver pulling a large wood crusher towards the lake. The man also stopped by the side of the road for a while. He also wondered why the man above dared to face the snow leopard like that. Running out at night to grind wood was odd, so he had a deep impression of the man above. When the police showed the photo for identification, Jose immediately recognized the man. Driving above is Richard. With the information obtained, the investigation team has made a new conjecture that Richard may have moved his wife's body to the lakeside and dumped it with a wood crusher. Upon finding the key point on the investigation team was immediately the target and the lake. Over a number of days searching, the police found some pieces of wood scattered on the lake shore. Fortunately, along with the pieces of wood, they also found some pieces of paper. On the piece of paper there is also Helly's address information. It seems that this is the burial site, but the lake is very wide and deep. The comprehensive search is like a needle in a haystack. Just when the situation got tough, Dr. Lee came up with a special method. He rented a wood crusher exactly like the one Richard had rented before and by another pig. Treated after freezing, he threw the pig directly into the wood crusher. He used the way that pig bones were crushed and shot out to determine the range of the carcass, and finally the experiment proved that things fired from wood crushers could only fly as far as 4.6 m, things that the lighter ones are located near the shore. The experiment has basically defined a relatively clear range. Based on the clues the police organized a search team. They divided into two groups to search. One group searching along the lake shore in the style of searching with nets and rackets, and another group of divers searching in more distant areas. To make the search easier, they also asked the authorities and were granted permission. Approved to release some water in the lake. Finally, under a thorough investigation by the police, they discovered Helly's body rather than the debris left over after being crushed. The police found a total of 2,660 hairs, 69 bone fragments, 2 teeth, a skull fragment, a fingernail fragment, a toenail fragment. More importantly, they found an electromechanical device at the bottom of the lake. The investigation team also found some pieces of skin that were barely visible to the naked eye. On the old tongue, along with blonde hair and some blue fabric that were identified as matching the carpet at Richard's house. However, the serial number on the crazy mussel was deleted. Carefully, the investigation team used a special acid. After soaking the erased part of the electromechanical in acid, the deleted serial number appeared 5921616. After comparing with Richard's electromechanical purchase invoice, the results matched. At the same time, hair samples were also compared with Helly's parents, showing similar colors. At that time, there was no DNA comparison technology. Identity verification was through body identification when divided. As above, identity verification is extremely difficult. The found nails were compared to the bottle of nail polish on her dressing table in terms of chemical composition, and the results were also found to be completely consistent. Were also checked with Helly's personal dentist, confirming that they perfectly matched her dental records. Police believe that Richard attacked his wife at least twice with a hard object in the bedroom. In order not to want people to find out that he had devised a way to destroy his wife with a crusher, doing so would make it impossible to identify the body. However, with soft things, it would be difficult for a wood crusher to shred them, so he went to the store to buy a large freezer, put his wife inside. When the body froze, he continued to use electromechanical to divide it into many pieces, and then used a wood crusher to spray it all into the lake to feed the fish, to clean the traces. On January 13, 1987, the State Medical Examiner's Office of Connecticut received the documents provided by the police and signed the death certificate stating that Richard, who normally concealed the truth, was immediately arrested. The above case caused a great resonance throughout the United States because the coverage of the case was too high during the processing. There were many turbulence. In May 1988, the case was forced to move to New York, London to process in 2 weeks. Next, more than 100 witnesses appeared in court to testify, and more than 650 evidences were presented. After 54 days of arduous trial, out of 12 members of the Evaluation Council, 11 people thought that Richard was guilty, but one of them said he was not guilty, leading to the case not being sentenced, because Richard pleaded not guilty. On November 21, 1989, nearly 3 years after the incident, the second trial was held with witnesses, evidence, and clear testimony. The Evaluation Council came to a conclusion that Richard was guilty and sentenced to 50 years in prison. On January 30, 2020, after 31 years in prison, Richard was released from prison and moved to live in a house about 32 kilometers from his old house. He was released early because of good rehabilitation, which allowed him shorten the sentence. Why this case has attracted attention? partly because the method of crime is so cruel, and partly because it is the first case in Connecticut's history where the prosecutor is still bringing charges forced murder although the perpetrator did not admit fault. In the end my name was established based on the investigations and evidence available. The case was solved not only by the intelligence of Dr. Lee but also by the dedication of each policeman involved in the investigation. There is also Helly's private detective. Behind every murder there is at least one victim and a grieving family. Today's video ends here and see you in the next videos. Hello.